What's going on, everyone? So I made a video diving into Zion and, his potential return, as well as I think that the Pelicans should probably just let him sit out the year and just get him right. Like I talked about, get him the best dietitians, the best trainers, the best doctors, right? Like invest this year in trying to get Zion to be the best version of himself next year. So maybe you can go on a real run. I understand the idea and wanting of like, okay, what does this look like? Right? Is this worth investing into with DeJounte and CJ and Herb and Murphy and, Ingram right now is out, but like when he comes back and, right? Because you had this vision. Pelicans were one of the, or have at times have looked like one of the better teams in the league. Right? We've seen years where they're, the top seed and they're just kind of running through everybody and they look like a very good basketball team. And then Brandon Ingram gets hurt and Zion gets hurt and just like it gets back to being a total mess, total disaster, and then they're right back to square one. Then they're a play-in team, first round exit in the playoffs, or they miss the playoffs entirely, like you're about to see this season, right? So I don't blame the Pelicans for wanting to be great. I don't blame the Pelicans for, no one's going to knock them for trying. They've tried. They've acted. There are a lot of teams that care less about winning. Right I've talked about it before. There are teams that would probably take Zion right now via trade just because they'd be looking at the dollar signs and the jersey sales and all that stuff, right? And just would be willing to take him on. So the fact that the Pelicans have actively tried and continue to make moves to try to be there, and on paper you look at the Pelicans, it's like, man, they should be a contender. They should be a top team. DeJounte Murray is a borderline all-star guard that gets you near triple-double every night. CJ McCollum just went off for like 50, right? Like you got multiple sizable, versatile wings. You got a guy that has literal top 5 talent potential in Zion Williamson. Brandon Ingram as like your secondary third guy, like it could probably get you somewhere. Like this team looks good on paper. They just haven't been able to pan out. They just haven't been able to work it out. And that's a problem. That's where the dilemma lies for the Pelicans. And so I do get the incentive of like, hey, what does this look like? Let's kind of evaluate. Let's kind of, take a look. The other side of it is like, okay, and this was kind of what I didn't touch on and what I didn't talk about, which is why I kind of wanted to make this video. Do you get him back? Get him as good as possible, and then try to trade him, like really push to trade him at the trade deadline. Right? Like basically so if he comes next week, you have about like 2.5 weeks, depending on what day he comes. But like, let's just call it 2.5 weeks before the trade deadline, right? Which is February 6th. So you have probably within that time 10 games or so to really kind of see what does Zion look like. If he's like really good, looks spry, looks healthy, looks like he's Zion, does the team go like, oh, as long as he plays the rest of the season, we're fine, we'll kind of figure it out in the offseason, right? Does the team kind of go make a push, go make a play for Zion, or maybe at least give you more for Zion? But you still might not be able to trade him. Like the problem is you're probably never going to get the value for a player like Zion that you would get, right? So it's just like, do you kind of just go, okay, well, a healthy Zion is going to get us more than a non-healthy Zion. I just think if you're going to trade Zion, you might as well trade everybody. You might as well just complete teardown, right? Like trade everybody, anybody, right? They don't want to trade like Herb Jones. Like I would keep Messi because he's a rookie and just got there and he's actually been very good for them this year. But outside of that, trade everybody, right? Like even Herb Jones, I think, because he's like 26, 27. Like I think you at least entertain. Like I wouldn't just trade him. In all honesty, you might get more for Herb than you would anyone else. Like in all, you talk about a versatile, sizable 3-and-D wing, like all defensive guy that can defend 2 through 5, or 1 through 5, can play 2 through 4, right? Like that's great, right? Like he could slot in essentially anywhere for you. So I kind of look at it and go like, okay, like anybody that's over the age of like 25, really, right? And even then, I think everybody is tradable for the right price, the right pieces, the right players, right? Like I don't think anyone on the Pelicans is so good that they should be essentially unmovable, untouchable. But I do think that there are guys that, there's a list. If you were to go down the list, there's guys towards the bottom of the list that you would trade last before, trade in the guys at the top of the list. But I just think, like, if you're going to trade Zion, you might as well just tear the whole thing down, right? Because you're not going to go get a player of his talent to come back to Pelicans aren't a free agent destination, right? So your hope is that my biggest problem is I don't want to see the Pelicans ruin their draft position right now, right? They have a real chance of getting like a franchise guy and being like, especially if they land Cooper Flag, right? If you land Cooper Flag, there's your Zion replacement, get rid of Zion, and there you go, right? Like, so I don't want to see a team that actually cares about winning, like, end up sabotaging themselves even further, and I just think at some point you got to look at the situation, just go, all right, like, so do they want to bring him back to evaluate and kind of see? Do they want to bring him back to ultimately maybe raise his trade value so then they can trade him? But the thing is, like, you're still, like, teams are going to be like, okay, yeah, he played 2.5 weeks. Like, that's great. But can he play the rest of the season? Right? If he was healthy all the way up to this point, right? Like, if he started the season healthy and he's played, whatever, the 35 games or whatever they've played, right? If he's been healthy during this stretch, then yeah, I could see a team going like, man, he's been healthy all year. He's looked good all year. Right? Do we take a flyer and assume that he can be healthy the rest of the season? Obviously, he'll probably miss some games, but like, maybe teams would be looking at it as like, as long as he gives us, like, he plays the equivalent of 70 games this season, right? Like, so basically gives us half the season, like, cool, perfect, right? Like, that's the thing, but all these other teams, you can't trust that that's going to happen, is my point. And I just think the best way to approach it would be to get Zion to be the best version he could possibly be. Right? That's why I said, take this season and invest in him, right? All of the, just whatever, doctors, dietitians, all of it, right? Trainers, all of it. Get Zion, his body, his mind, his spirit, everything, whatever, right? Like, get it all right. Get it as close to perfect as you can get. See how that looks. And then by like trade deadline next season, even if let's say he is top 5 talent, even if let's say this is the best version of Zion we've ever seen. My gosh, he's looking superstar. If I'm the Pelicans, I am selling him immediately. Even if he goes on to be the best player in the league, even if he goes on to win 7 championships wherever he ends up, you live with it, right? Like, because you don't want to be the team to take that gamble again. My question is, would the Pelicans actually do that if Zion got right? Because my point is to invest in a Zion to the point to where he can now look like the Zion that everyone knows and needs him to be, so then you can now ship him out and get a real return, right? Where a team is like, wow, this guy is back. He's back, baby, Zion. And then all the excitement and hype, and you just sell high on the hype, right? And just like, boom. Like I said, if he goes on to be a superstar again and whatever, him and Wemby are the 2 best players in the league, like, because Zion's still what? He's like 22, 23. Like, the guy's still young, right? Like, so my point is, like, if you can still sell high on Zion, like, if you can get Zion to the point to where his value is never going to be higher, instead of trying to rush him back, repeating this cycle over and over and over and over again, because it's the same thing over and over and over and over again, instead of just rinsing and repeat, right? Like, change it up a little. Let's switch it up a little. Let's go over here a little bit, right? Like, it's kind of my thought process. But they got to figure something out, right? Got to make some moves. Got to do something, right? Like, it's frustrating because it's just Zion's so talented, and it's frustrating that, like, he just can't get out of his own way. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Kind of mixed in the middle. Do you think, like, yes, you got to trade Zion, right? Like, let him take the season off, or do you think no, you got to bring him back now, try to trade him by the trade deadline? But do you think teams would actually bite on that? I just don't. I just think teams will look at it and be like, cool, he played 2 weeks, right? Like, call us when he's played this season, like maybe in the off season type thing. But Again, how you feel, whatever your thoughts are. Either way, I'd love to hear it, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.